Hi, and welcome to Faith in Front. Recently, I had the privilege of preaching a two-part sermon on spiritual warfare. And based on the response, I figured I would put it on this YouTube channel. Now, don't panic. You won't have to listen to the whole sermon. What I'm going to do is I'm going to break it up. So for the next 5 weeks, we're going to be looking at Ephesians 6, 13 through 18, where we'll break down the 6 pieces of armor that unfortunately we may not fully understand, or we sometimes we underutilize way too much. And so those pieces are the belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, the gospel shoes of peace, the shield of faith, the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit. So let's dive into the first one. Ephesians 6, 10 through 15. Finally, be strengthened by the Lord and by his vast strength, or some might say the power of his might. Put on the full armor of God so that you can stand against the schemes of the devil. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers of this darkness, against evil, spiritual forces in the heavens. For this reason, take up the full armor of God so that you may be able to resist the evil day, having prepared everything to take your stand. Therefore, with truth like a belt around your waist, righteousness like armor on your chest, and your feet sandaled with the readiness for the gospel of peace. In every situation, take up the shield of faith with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. Because what Paul is doing is he's using some imagery of a Roman soldier and what they had to use when they fought. And so basically he's just using a metaphorical type language for us to understand what our weapons are in this spiritual warfare that we deal with every day. And young people, when you're at school and things are going on, this is good for you too, because you can look beyond what's going on and remember that things do happen in the spiritual realm, because the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy. He wants to steal your joy. He wants to do all kinds of things to make you an ineffective Christian, right? What we want to do is the first piece of armor that we want to look at is the belt of truth. If you look at this picture, you will see that the belt, his sword is connected to it, and his breastplate of righteousness also connects to the belt. And that's important. And I think that the reason why Paul starts off with the belt of truth, because if your belt is not the way it's supposed to be, you will not have a sure footing. Because one thing you have to keep in mind is back in those days, guys wore long things like long tunics and things like that. So when it was time for combat, they would reach down and pick up their long rope and they would tuck it in their belt so that they could have a sure footing for combat. Okay, so it gave them somewhere to put their long garment so that they could actually fight, but it also had the parts of the other armor connected to it. So I think there's a strategic reason why the belt of truth is the first one mentioned, because if you don't have truth right, all the other pieces of armor will be in some kind of compromised situation. I mean, if your belt's not on right, well, now your sword is all messed up. If the belt is sloppy, now your sword is sloppy, your breastplate of righteousness is sloppy. You see how it all has to connect. So you got, it is sometimes, you got on some pants and you just like, man, I needed a belt for these things. And you just running around trying to, it's kind of like that. Okay. When you don't have a belt and you needed a belt, that day. Okay. So when you don't have a belt, things can just get real sloppy. You can trip, okay? And other things that connect to the belt, they're not connected the way they are supposed to. Now, I'll be honest with you, I could have preached on this one all day. This could have been the whole thing. Because truth, one thing the enemy has done he has really attacked truth in our culture. Truth is just whatever people want it to be. Well, that might be true for you, but not for me. You hear that a lot. Words of Oprah. Well, you just rock your truth. You just rock your truth. See, when people say stuff like that, they're saying that, hey, if it works for you, it's true. If it doesn't work for you, it's not. Okay? And the reason why people are attacking truth through the enemy, because we got to keep our focus on him. I even have to keep my focus on him as I do this. He's attacking truth because he knows that when truth becomes subjective and it's just whatever you want it to be, there is no authority that you have to now submit to. Because if everything is just true based on your preference, then there's no authority. If it was raining outside, I may not feel like seeing rain. I may not feel like getting wet. But the objective truth is, if it's raining outside, I got to get an umbrella and I got to get some rain gear. I have to submit to the fact that it's raining outside, whether I want it to be raining or not. And truth is like that. The truth of God is like that. Morality is like that. But people want to make truth subjective, but they want to make God subjective. They want to make right and wrong subjective because they know that once I do that, then I have basically taken the authority out of it and I don't have to surrender to it now because it's all on me. It's like for one day, if you could just take up all the speed limit signs, just drive whatever way you want to. It will be chaos. Because why? You removed the objective standard. And now people can drive according to what's right in their own eyes. And that's what happens when you start making truth subjective or trying to get rid of the objective standard. And the statement is true that without God, everything is permissible. Jesus says, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except through me. The enemy is going to attack truth because he knows when he attacks truth, he's actually attacking God. Because God's very nature is true. It's not like God looks at truth and says, oh, yes, I agree with that. No, because then that would make truth above him. No, God is truth. Yes. So when we attack truth, we're actually attacking him indirectly. So whenever you want to make truth something else, you're really still trying to redefine God, just kind of in a slick way. But we have to keep these things in mind because it's even creeping in the church. I'm hearing these terms like progressive church. We have some progressive churches out there now. And in most times, that's just code word for compromising churches out there. Because the people that's progressive, they want to be with the times. So you know what? Hey, man, those scriptures, that's an old interpretation. We're with the new now. Maybe those scriptures really don't mean what you think they said. We've learned a lot now. And Paul and those guys, they didn't understand this stuff that we're going through. So, that really doesn't mean that. So get with the times, man. Last time I checked, Jesus the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. So when you get through, you can change all you want. But God is not changing. And you either going to roll with God or you going to try to get God to change, which you can't do. Everybody wants God to conform to them when it's backwards. No, we're supposed to conform to him. We're supposed to submit to him. But it's really the opposite. People want God to conform to them. So we have to be careful in these times because even John 8:32 says, you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. Yes, Lord. John 8:32. So the enemy, of course, he's going to attack truth because he knows that he wants to keep you in a jail cell of ignorance. Because when you don't know, that is a form of being in bondage. I can remember it was a season where I was experiencing anxiety, and I never experienced anxiety before, so I didn't really know what to do with it. It was foreign to me, and I was just like, "What is happening to me?" It was just weird. But when someone sat me down and said, "Okay, this is how anxiety works, and this is what it does to you," it was like this release. This weight just came off me. Why? Because I was set free by the truth of my circumstance. As long as I was in ignorance to it, it's like being in a jail cell of ignorance. And the sad part, today we're living in a culture where ignorance is bliss. So there's a lot of people who actually want to stay in the jail cell of ignorance because they know that, well, if you tell me the truth, then I have to submit to it, and I don't want that. Because we're living in a time where feelings are more important than truth. And so even if what you're saying is true and it disturbs my feelings, I have an issue with you. Don't disturb my feelings, because that's where we live today. Even if it is true. People will use tactical statements rather than truthful statements. A tactical statement does not have to be true. It just has to be effective. Last time I checked, I do not have a fear of anybody. But every time you turn around, there's a new phobia for something. Anything that you don't agree with, you have a fear of it. That's not a true statement. It's tactical because it's been effective. Now you got Christians running into the closet while everybody else coming out of it. Because it was effective. What never was true, but it was effective. And it's been working. Okay? We're gonna have to figure out, are we gonna stand with truth? Because truth gives stability. When you look at it gives stability to the situation. So when there is untruth going on, now you have all things that are just unstable, because truth, the belt of truth, gives the soldier stability to actually do combat. So when we are fighting in this spiritual war that we're fighting in, we're gonna have to decide if we're gonna stand with the truth of God's word, because if not, you will be unstable in all you do. Hey, I hope you enjoyed the insights on the belt of truth. Stand by for next week, where we'll get into the breastplate of righteousness. See you then.